my name's Caroline and welcome to my channel. Today I thought I'd do a video around what we mean when we say I've been triggered, because it seems to be a fairly recent phrase that as a collective we've all started to adopt. But I also wonder whether it actually means quite different things to different people. And so yeah, I'd invite you, if you'd like to write in the comments what you understand that phrase "I've been triggered" means for you, if you're happy to share. But yeah, generally what I understand it to mean is that something has happened externally that has created a physical response in our bodies. And from that physical response, we may attach certain emotions and certain thoughts to that response. And that might then mean we start to behave in a certain way as a result of those sensations, emotions, and thoughts. And so that external situation could be someone says something that we have a reaction to that doesn't feel as though it's really in our control, or we watch some content on social media or on YouTube or on the news that affects us. It can be a smell, it can be a taste, it can be someone looking like someone else. There's lots of situations that can create a triggering response from us. And not only can it be an external situation, it can also be, we can also create internal triggers. So sometimes we may have a thought that can actually create a feeling inside of us. So if we decided to think about, let's say, a past relationship that was perhaps toxic, we can trigger ourselves. And usually the external and the internal triggers are related to not great situations that happened to us when we were younger. It may be when we were, only a year younger, or it may be back in childhood. But usually the feelings originate from when we were in childhood. And then perhaps later on in adulthood, we're re-experiencing something that feels similar to a situation that happened when we were a child or a young adult, let's say. And usually in those experiences, we have some kind of feeling of helplessness, or perhaps shame or judgment. Maybe we weren't able to escape from a certain situation. Maybe something happened that felt very much out of our control. Maybe we were given some news that was very left field and we weren't expecting it at all. Maybe we were being bullied and so we felt particularly helpless. And what would be triggering for someone else, it might not be triggering for us, or what's triggering for us might not be triggering for someone else. So for example, one person might have their handbag snatched when they're on a busy street, and they might find that it can really affect the rest of their lives if they are unable to process that experience. And if it links in with something that happened in childhood, potentially, that left them feeling extremely victimised. Whereas another person who had a different experience may have their handbag snatched, but then are able to get the support they need. Maybe they have a friend with them who can provide them with the emotional support that they need. Maybe it's handled beautifully by the police. Maybe they get their handbag back and so the situation is resolved. And what happens when we're triggered is we start to re-experience some of those feelings that happened in the past. And so when we're triggered, we're actually talking about a form of traumatic response. So the initial experience would on some level have traumatized us, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean that the experience was, you know, objectively horrific, but subjectively in our experience it took us out of our comfort zone and we weren't able to fully process what happened in that moment or afterwards. And so now we might see someone across the road who looked a bit like the person who took our handbag, or we may have been drinking coffee at the time or just before my handbag was snatched. And so now drinking coffee might trigger a physical sensation within us that reminds us, as we are reminded of that traumatic incident. And maybe lots of other triggers. We may not be able to walk down that same street because that can bring on those similar feelings. And generally it's those feelings that it brings up for us that we don't want to feel, because often those feelings, we make meaning of those feelings in terms of I'm a victim, I'm helpless, I was, you know, the world is cruel, this is that there is a lot of injustice in the world, I feel shameful that I wasn't able to defend myself, or I feel somehow guilty that I should have known better. And so those meanings that we make of the situation can then be tied into those horrible feelings that we feel when we've experienced a traumatic incident. And I'll do some more videos around what those feelings might be and what they mean for us, and how that also links in with the thoughts that we have about those sensations and those feelings. But yeah, just to say, I guess that you know, if we're in a situation whereby we have the option to avoid what might be triggering, so on social media or on YouTube, if there is a trigger warning, I feel like those are actually quite helpful, because then we're given a choice. And often when we were in the traumatic incident, we didn't have many choices, or our choices were very much narrowed. And so if a video pops up that says, you know, trigger warning, we have a choice then. Are we in a place whereby we can watch the content and we're emotionally feeling pretty regulated and stable, and so we can watch that content and it won't upset us? Or have we had a really bad week and, you know, XYZ's happened, or maybe I didn't get much sleep last night, you know, maybe I'm really hungry, and so more stress on my system is not going to be good for me. And so I have the choice then. I can avoid watching that content. And so one of the choices I've made is around the news, watching the news, because I don't want to be overloaded, particularly, you know, at the moment. You know, often the news is pretty heavy, and although I want to stay informed and I want to know what's going on in the world, at the same time, do I want to be, you know, constantly bombarded with negative headlines? So one of the things I've done actually is I do have an app on my phone, and I allow the headlines to come through, but I choose when I'm going to look at my phone, and I don't automatically, always watch the news. I don't have the radio on in my car, because I want to choose when I want to read the news. I want to be in a place whereby when something negative is being presented to me, I feel like I'm in a place to be able to read that. So, maybe that's something to think about when it comes to feeling triggered, because I feel like all news outlets should come with a trigger warning, because generally the vast majority of the news we watch is sad or scary or makes us angry. And so, and hopefully on this channel I've already uploaded a couple of videos about ways in which we can manage anxiety. So first of all, the physiological side that I've spoken about, a really quick way to reduce our the sensations of being triggered in our body, and also the butterfly hug. Just a really simple method to bring down our nervous system and help us to feel grounded and back in the present. Because when we're triggered, we're actually taken to a time in the past. We partly lose touch with what's going on right now, and we feel as though we're back in the past. And so really important work is to then bring us back into the present moment. So I hope that's helpful. We'll be doing more videos around trauma and feeling triggered and processing past trauma, and how to minimize being re-triggered in future. But yeah, if you have anything to contribute around feeling triggered and what triggers you, then I'd love to hear from you. But if not, have a good day, and I will see you soon. Bye.